Yo, what is going on, guys? Russ here. It's been a while. I apologize, but I am now returning, and I got a lot of stuff in the works for you guys. So, welcome back to the first video of Season 2 Mythic Plus commentaries. I thought I'd give these ones another pass, because we got the new affix and things like that, and they're pretty okay for me to make and things like that. So, and we got some subtlety in the mix this season because it's now become viable. So, showcasing a subtlety key for this first run. I know it's only an 18, but this was a really nice run. We had quite a cool route. We went a little bit over on trash, so we missed the 2 chest or the +2 on this key. But we were aiming for that one. I think the tank was like a healer main or something who was just playing on his ult or something. So we messed up a little bit of the trash, but the route was for the most part pretty good. So as you can see here, we're starting off with a shroud to the left side, and that is so that we can go and get these tormentors down as quickly as possible. For this key, I'm running a Finality Legendary with Subtlety, and I'll put my talents on the screen for you now, but important to know is Shuriken Tornado, which I'm popping right here. And yeah, sorry for the scuffed quality a little bit on this key. I'm going to try and fix that one sometime in post. But if it's a little bit scuffed or blurry, I do apologize for that. Something messed up with the recordings and things like that. So what we want to be doing as Subtlety is pretty much where most people go wrong, I guess. It's kind of like the cleave situations. For the most part, it's pretty easy to pick up and play on like AoE, and once you know like how the single target works, it's not too bad there either. AoE is pretty much like spamming Shuriken Storm and Black Powder. Like that's pretty much it. So the use of Shuriken Tornado, which I still think that I can do better on. So it was interesting for me to watch this key back before I started recording the voiceover as well, because there's a lot of mistakes that I noticed in my own gameplay here, which were like mostly down to rupturing and the use of like Shuriken Tornado. So yeah, we're just gonna go ahead and pull a spirit. It's pretty okay. Important thing to do is kind of like use your symbols of death pretty much on cooldown. Obviously it is big burst. I am not running, like I've just switched to Kyrian, so I am like grinding out my renown right now, so I don't really have all the right soulbinds and things, but my damage through this key I thought was like pretty decent, as you'll see as we go through, especially when it comes to AoE. That's where Subtlety like really shines. But also my boss damage was really nice, and my single target. So just making sure to kind of like get my reselfs off between packs if I can, which will mean that I can proc my slice and dice off my first Shadow Strike of each combat, you know. And also you get an extra 12 seconds of slice and dice every single time that you use a Shadow Dance, as long as you use one Shadow Strike within that Shadow Dance. So sometimes even on AoE, I might just, you know, do a little dance while I'm spamming my Shuriken Tornadoes or something, just so I can get like one Shadow Strike in. Depends on the number of mobs if it's worth it or not. There's really a lot of kind of like, it's a lot of sliding scale stuff with Subtlety for those AoE packs. So like single target, obviously you're just going to do a single target rotation, which I'm thinking about potentially making some kind of Subtlety guide for M+ and Subtlety guide for raiding. So let me know down in the comment section if that's something you'd be interested in. And also like a Mythic Plus version. Sorry, a Mythic Plus version and a raiding version. Is that what I said? I don't know. But yeah, so get your single target rotation down. It's obviously going to be very useful. So we've just gone up there to get the Tormentor. Unfortunately, our warrior dies here, which kind of sucks. I think he just didn't wait for aggro or something like that. But yeah, you want to be with Shuriken Tornado, which is kind of like a bit weird to get used to if you're not using it already and you're still using Master of Shadows. Then I would highly recommend Shuriken Tornado for especially dungeons with like large amounts of trash. The other side being one of those. I think the other side is one of these keys where Subtlety is like really good, really good, much better than Outlaw. There's like a couple keys where it's like that, where like Outlaw kind of wins because of utility and smaller pulls, like TOP and I think like Spires of Ascension. I personally prefer Outlaw in there because there's a lot of CCing and stopping and things and kicking and whatnot to do in that key. But like DOS is one of those ones where I think Subtlety really shines. And then probably like 4 or 6 of the dungeons you can kind of just play whichever one you prefer. And I know that a lot of people are going sub, and a lot of people are going Venthyr. because of like MDI and things like that, and it just does incredible damage, especially single target. But I do think that well, I've just gotten Kyrian actually so that I can kind of play both specs, because I quite like outlawing Kyrian, and I'm trying out Subtlety Kyrian. I heard it's quite viable, so I'm kind of waiting for the 9.1.5 changes where we can just switch freely between the covenants. But I have just switched away from Necrolord. A couple of the videos that you'll be seeing uploaded over the next couple of weeks will feature me as Necrolord. I haven't switched back, or maybe I have, I don't know, but I've already recorded those and I've already got those in the works. I'm kind of like backpiling content right now so that I don't have to, so that I don't like fall behind on YouTube again. So again, I apologize for that. But yeah, with Shuriken Tornado, I'll leave a link to my weak aura down below, which kind of just shows whenever it's going to proc. So you press Shuriken Tornado and then it waits for like half a second, and then it goes Tornado or Shuriken Storm, Shuriken Storm, Shuriken Storm, Shuriken Storm. And you just want to be waiting for that to tick passively, and then you just want to be using a finisher between everyone. It's like the length of a global cooldown, right? So you just wait for it to tick, use black powder, wait for it to tick, use black powder, wait for it to tick, black powder, right? So weak aura to kind of like help see when it's going to proc. So I'll put that down below. Personally, I don't really look at it because I've learned the timing, but it is quite good for like training wheels when you're learning how a Shuriken Tornado works, right? So I'll put that one down in the description below. But yeah, generally like AoE, as I said, is like sub strong point. You just want to be using your tornadoes on cooldown with symbols, by the way. So you pop the Shuriken Tornado, and then you are going to like pop your symbols straight afterwards, so that you get the crit strike onto the first tornado, which is going to put the exposed weakness onto everything as well. And so then your black powder is going to hit double. It's going to do that little after effect that it does. So you're going to pop tornado into like symbols right before the first tick while it's like kind of charging up, and then just black powder, wait, black powder, wait, black powder. So that's kind of like that little combo. And once that runs out, you're pretty much on AoE. It is honestly so easy. You're basically just alternating between a Shuriken Storm and a black powder, a Shuriken Storm and a black powder, a Shuriken Storm and a black powder. That's at like anything, maybe like 5 targets plus. That is your literal rotation. You don't have to worry about slice and dice for the most part. Like you can pop on slice and dice when target number gets lower. I'd say like 5 or less maybe. Just pop a slice and dice on either with a Shadow Strike or sacrifice 1 black powder. It's kind of like you have to make that decision, like, do I want slice and dice or do I want this black powder, because stuff is like getting hit, right? And as soon as the number of mobs starts to whittle down a bit, maybe you want to think about putting up some ruptures and maybe putting up some slice and dices. But yeah, rupture is definitely like, I'd say, the hardest part of subtlety. Keeping track of it, knowing when to use it, when to not use it. Generally, the rule of thumb is that you only want to put rupture on to like targets that you know are going to live through it, and targets which is maybe like up to 3. I would kind of stop using rupture at like 3 or 4 target, like anything higher than 3 or 4 targets. But yeah, as you can see here, we're kind of like doing this weird route where we went left and went back on ourselves, and we're just getting these tormentors, especially the fire guy and this executioner guy, right? Because they give the strongest powers. This guy's going to give you the Blade of Necrotic Wounding, which is really good in single target. I'm going to move out here and pop evasion so I don't take the dot from that charge that he did. So remember that the order of abilities is always like the tank shred, and then he's going to do the scream, which is like the AoE fear. You need to be making sure that you stand with a buddy for that one, the wave of terror. There it is there. So you want to be making sure that you have a buddy for that one, and then straight after that you need to like re-spread back out, because he's going to charge at someone, right? And you can use evasion on that. I think you can also feint it, so if you don't have evasion ready, you could use the feint so that it does a little bit less initial damage. I don't know if that lessens the dot or not. Here I'm going to throw a distract onto this machine thing on the other side so that we can move past it, because those do take a lot of time and they're quite annoying. And then we're just going to put all this stuff together. Now this pack gets a little bit messy. But like in general it went fine, because you've just got to bear in mind that we don't have as much space as we might usually, because we have distracted that like big machine thing that does the AoE, right, that you have to line of sight. What was it called, like a mecha drill? I can't remember the exact name. But yeah, again, like with the sub rotation, it is pretty much like single target. You want to just keep up your rupture, keep it slice and dice, and just kind of like make sure you always have a dance ready, like a shadow dance ready for when symbols comes up. That is where you're going to make a lot of mistakes as well. if you shadow dance on cooldown, because you're just like, oh, I can just shadow dance because I have a shadow dance, and then you might get symbols come up and you have to wait like, you know, 5 seconds, 10 seconds for a shadow dance or something. Like you might need to get a couple finishes going or something to reduce the cooldown on the shadow dance to get it back. Just like always keep one shadow dance in the bank, or like at least half a charge in the bank, you know, like when symbols is maybe like 10 seconds left or so. Because you want to be ideally using your symbols on cooldown or very, very close to it. Obviously not if like a mob's going to die before. Like if a mob's 2 seconds away from dying, you don't want to pop a symbols on it, right? But if say you're like 5 or 10 seconds delayed on your symbols, that's really, really bad, because I'm cloaking this, by the way, this haywire. It's really, really bad to sit on your symbols of death, because it's only a 30-second cooldown anyway, and it is a lot of damage. It is a lot of damage. Like, it may look like a small cooldown, like a small ability, but it is like 30-second burst window. It's really, really, really useful and really, really good. So that's that would be something that I somehow got hit through the pipe here, so I did have to pop a potion, and I proc my cheat death, and our Shami died. That was sad, but you know, we got through it, which is fine. He actually released instead of unking, which I don't think was necessary. But yeah, you want to, if you're delaying your symbols like 5 or 10 seconds, that's literally like 30%, like that's 30% of its cooldown, right? So you're essentially increasing its cooldown by 30%, and when you put it in numbers like that percentage, that's really, really big, right? Like that 30% is not a small number to be wasting of the cooldown. Like, think if you did that 10 times over a run, you know, you've missed a lot of symbols. Like you've missed a lot of symbols there. So definitely don't be like sitting on symbols too long. Obviously you don't want to be popping out of combat and things, but you generally do want to be putting it up as soon as you really viably can in combat. So I try and pair it again with like a tornado here. I'm getting up some ruptures because it's 3 mobs. So you want to be rupturing, I'd say like up to 3 or 4 mobs. And after that, you want a black powder as a finisher on like 3+ mobs. And even on 2 mobs, you'll be like shuriken storming. Obviously, like if you guys do want like a more detailed guide of sub, then I can probably put that into like a more easily digestible format. I don't know if any of those exist on YouTube already, so I have to have a little look around. But if you'd like to hear my take on it, then just let me know in the comments, and I'll probably just put something out for you guys, because I really, really enjoy this spec. It's really, really fun. It's good on single, good on AoE. Like, I don't know why, I've always been a bit of a sucker for like those specs which have like a really easy AoE rotation. Like, have you ever played Elemental Shaman? Just like spamming Chain Lightning and Earthquake, I always found that really satisfying, even though there's obviously no skill to it and it's really, really easy. It's just 2 buttons, right? But for some reason I really, really like that about those kind of like simple AoE rotations, because you just feel really powerful. It's just like big builder, huge spender, big builder, huge spender, and the damage just feels like infinite. So yeah, it's mainly about like your positioning on the AoE, and that's where sub again like really, really shines. If you can mass pull, you have a tank that's really, really comfortable with pulling big, sub is going to really, really, really shine. And you'll see here like my boss damage is really nice. So this is the first boss that we're on here. Obviously I'm sitting on my Shadow Blades a little bit here for Maleficent. So like doing 6k without popping like any cooldowns, all I've really used here is the symbols, and I'm going to save this next symbols for Maleficent, so I've got everything to go. Like, I'm doing 7k DPS and I haven't even popped anything yet. And you'll just see me spike now in a second. Like, we're going to pop the Lust and we're going to go ham on Maleficent, and we're just going to have a good time. So here we go. Make sure I have my symbols ready, and I've got a couple macros for my openers as well. I'm going to get the Rupture up, and then I'm just going to pop, and you'll see me just spike now. Like, I'm going crazy. So like, I think those other guys, they pop their cooldowns on pull because maybe they'll get them back, because I know that I'm only getting 1 Shadow Blades. Sadly, I got the bomb here, but it's fine. I'm just going to wait for it, and I'm going to Shadow Step boss after this. And yeah, I've switched Kyrian. Personally, I don't really like Kyrian subtlety, because finding this like empowered anima point I find really, really annoying with Shadow Techniques, which is the passive ability. If you look in your spellbook, it will be, I'll put it on screen for you now, but the Shadow Techniques is the one that is going to basically make your combo points start automatically generating when you hit in melee. Here I use the symbols because I knew that I could get instantly back onto Millhouse, so I don't need to waste like half a second or a second of it. And the bosses both almost die. But like 8.2k DPS is pretty good I'd say. And these guys that we're playing with are like, you know, they're like mythic geared people. Like this warrior was like 2.5k score or something. So I'd hope that like they know how to press their buttons at least, you know, like they're all mythic raiders and stuff. Like I actually haven't been playing some Sanctum of Domination or doing any mythic raiding for a while now. Just pugging my keys. But yeah, what was I saying? Distracting this thing again, just so that we can get past, or get back past it, should I say, because this just is a time sink. So what I was talking about was the Anima Charge combo point on the Kyrian ability. Echoing Reprimand it's called. So if you are playing Kyrian, you'll know what I'm talking about. Shadowy techniques can be really, really annoying when you're trying to find that empowered Anima Charge combo point, because it might be wanting you to get 3 combo points for a big finisher, and then you have to sit there and you get 2, and then you like backstab to 3, and then it like shadowy techniques shoot up to 4, right? And then you miss it, and then you're like, it's really awkward because I've just used a 4-point finisher. And now I still need to go find the 3-point, and then you might do that like 2 or 3 times. In my experience so far, it's been like kind of a practice makes perfect scenario. And also like, instead of, you know, in that same scenario that I just explained, if you've got 2 combo points and you want to backstab up to 3 to spend it, I would just instead wait for shadowy techniques to proc the 3rd, and then it definitely can't proc again while you're using a finisher. Also, you won't be global cooldown locked out while you're trying to use a finisher, and you'll definitely have energy for it and things like that, right? So in that situation, I would kind of like backstab up to 2, wait for the shadowy techniques to proc up to 3, and then use your big finisher, and then it's done. Obviously, you do have like 45 seconds to farm the point out, which is fine. Like that's a lot of time. So you might find it passively, but if you are like, if you have a weak aura that you're tracking it with, like you want to be getting, and it's, you know, it's getting towards the end and you still haven't found that combo point, maybe it's worth just kind of like slowing down your gameplay for a second, and just making sure that you can find that combo point. Here again, you can use evasion on this Sogolon the Breaker on his smash. So if you can use that, I would not advise you staying in for any more than 1. Like if you want to feint it or something, like you'll still get an 8-second stun. So just evasion the first one is what I do, as long as I know that I'm not going to need evasion for, you know, anything coming up soon. And that's like one thing as well, when you know like you can turn your defensive abilities into offensive cooldowns, right? Like you can see evasion as like, okay, that's a defensive, right? Which it is. But if a defensive allows you to have more uptime on targets, then, you know, you can essentially use it as an offensive cooldown if you think about it that way, right? But don't do it, you know, if you know that you're going to need your cloak in a second for like some other ability, or you want to keep it as an oh shit button because you're not quite comfortable in like a dungeon, like you can't think ahead that far, then I would say keep it as your oh shit button. You know, so that you can just have it if you need it. Like if you feel like evasion is something that is going to save your life if something goes wrong, like the tank dies, then hold on to it, right? But if you are confident in your tank and you're confident in, you know, like you're not going to, like your healer maybe, that you can stay in for an ability or do something like that, you can use your cloak, kind of, you know, turn it around into an offensive to increase your uptime. Yeah. So you'll have, you know, those 4 seconds where you can sit on the boss. That's more DPS. That essentially made your evasion into a DPS cooldown, if you catch my drift, right? So this Ardenweald section now, we're pretty much just going through an AoEing and going through an AoEing and going through an AoEing. It's like the most fun part of this dungeon for sub, because you literally are spamming 2 buttons for like the straight 5 minutes that you're in here. I'm making sure to use symbols. Sorry, not symbols. Tricks of the Trade here to get the aggro onto tank. I'm pretty much tricksing on cooldown. I'm definitely making sure I have it for like every pack, but I am pressing it every time I see the tank is like pulling more mobs in. I just hit my Tricks of the Trader macro, which I have as a focus macro. That's why you can see above my health bar, like to the left below my party frames, there's a tank's name twice, like it's between the monk and my name. That's my focus bar. And yeah, that is just so that like I have a macro. You can also put it to like party 1 or something so they will go on the tank. But I have it as a focus macro. If you feel like you need your focus for any other reason, then maybe make it to put your tricks onto like party 1 or something, which I think is usually where the tank ends up. So that's really nice. Anytime, so like now I hit my tricks as a trade because I saw those extra ducks get pulled in there. And yeah, we're pretty much just this is a hard week. It's necrotic and sanguine, so a lot of kite is needed, which is a bit sad because like the tank can't really do damage, which is why we lacked a bit of damage in this run, I think. Also, our chamois, most chamois right now are playing Kyrian, and they're running that Vesper totem build, and they're usually hitting like 4k, 5k DPS overall in the dungeon. Our chamois was doing very, 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 very low DPS. Like, I don't know if he was new on chamois or taking a break or something like that, or we needed the healing or something, but you know, it's fine. Like, we got it done. It's fine. Like, it just shows that you don't absolutely need your healer to be casting DPS cult spells at all times if your DPS have a lot of damage, right? But like, we were going for the +2 here, and I think the reason we missed it is a couple things. It's the fact that we overpulled trash in this zone because we did all the zones backwards. I told you, like, we had quite an interesting route here, and the tank had to kite a lot because of necrotic and sanguine. And then on top of that, the healer isn't really doing much damage. So like all of those things compiled together might just be like why we missed that +2. But it's fine. Like, you know, we're not going to lose any sleep over it. No one's crying about it. It's absolutely fine to do that. And it just shows that you don't need to like min max every single key. Like, even this is an 18, and you can sometimes sign up to these like +12s or something. And there's people like moaning that the tank's not doing enough damage or the healer's not DPSing enough and stuff. It's like, it really, really doesn't matter. You know, like, most of the times playing better overall is going to be what gets your keys timed, and you know, it's going to be the difference between what times your keys and what doesn't, right? So you can see the tank there running off to potentially go and pull more trash, but we already had overpulled. I think he thought that like he forgot that we haven't done the Hakar zone yet, and we've still got that one to do after this. So from this point on, we just took like a linear route down to the boss and then down to Hakar. And again, you'll see like my boss damage is really, really nice. So like, not only I've got that crazy AoE, as you can see here, it's like, you know, you can sit there and sustain like 20+k forever with Black Powder. It'll be interesting to see how that changes with the AoE cap changes in 9.1.5. If you'd like me to make a video going over those for rogue specific stuff, I don't know, like, or just in general, actually, because plan for the channel going forward is to keep covering rogue, but also potentially cover other classes, because I actually do play a lot of different classes. I just mainly make YouTube stuff about rogue, right, because that is my current main. But yeah, like, if you'd like me to make a video about that kind of stuff, put it down below as well. I don't know, just give me any feedback, like any kind of videos that you guys would like to see, chuck them in the comment section, and I'll at least have a think about them. And like, maybe I'll you know, ask you for, you know, what particularly you'd like to see based on, you know, a comment that you leave or something. So I read all my comments. I interact with most of them, but I do read all of them. So yeah, that's that. But yeah, basically where sub struggles and it feels a little bit awkward is rupturing, and especially like the kind of like 2 to 3 target range, maybe like 2 to 4 target range. Single target's straightforward, AoE straightforward. You know, cleaving is where it's like a little bit weird. You're generally going to be keeping up ruptures on you know, multiple targets up to 3 or 4, and then you're just going to be shuriken storming and kind of like using eviscerates, or you know, eviscerates on 1 to 2 targets and Black Powder on anything above that. Basically, that's going to be kind of like your general finisher. Here again, you're going to see my damage absolutely pump because we've just popped everything. I do really love the burst with subs. So now we got Bloodlust, we got you know, Shadow Blaze going, and I'll, in my next sub commentary, I'll give you guys like, because I'll have my renown farmed out by that point, I'll give you guys like the proper, you know, I'll give you guys an even better show, because right now I'm running on like half renown. I'm cloaking this so I can stay down. I got my next symbols ready, so I'm kind of still bursting. You have like your 20-second Shadow Blade burst with your first symbols, which is like incredible damage, and then you pretty much can Shadow Dance constantly, and you should keep 1 Shadow Dance for your second symbols so that you can symbols on cooldown. And here, after the bomb blows up, you can Shadow Step back down. But yeah, you can basically burst for like 40 seconds, which is really, really, really fun. It's really fun because it's also quite, you know, it feels quite simple. So here I'm actually using a Shuriken Tornado on single target. I think it is worth it because you get like 4 Shuriken Storms for just 50 energy. And they are obviously giving you a combo point each time and doing a bit of damage, and you can still use, you know, abilities between it. So I think it just feels really awkward on single target to use Shuriken Tornado, but it's still worth doing. I probably wouldn't pair it with the symbols, but I would just kind of like throw it down sometime when it's kind of like good, especially on cleave. But I would only use it on single target when I know that I'm not going to need to use it like straight afterwards, you know, like because it is a 1 minute cooldown. If there's one target, I'm not going to use a Shuriken Tornado when I've got a pack of mobs, you know, coming up afterwards or something. So that's that. Again, I think it's like a matter of practice, whether or not you're going to be using a, like, you just, sub is like one of those specs where you need to like feel it, you know, like you feel like you're getting inside of your actual rogue. Like it feels much more connected than a lot of the other specs. Like Outlaw's very spammy. You could, you know, you have such high APM that there's a lot of potential to make a lot of mistakes with Outlaw. It's actually surprisingly one of the more intricate specs that there are right now, like not only for Rogue but in general, because the APM is so high and there are so many things that you need to like keep an eye on, and you know you've got to do so many duties on top of just doing damage, that like there's a lot of room for error with Outlaw. With Sub, I feel like you feel a little bit more connected. With Outlaw, you're very spammy. Like you can kind of, in a way, you can autopilot a little bit more, but you probably will make a lot of mistakes. Sub, like you get inside the character and you're just like really feeling the flow. And once you get into the rhythm with the shadow dances and like the symbols and, you know, all the like shuriken storming and stuff like that, it does feel really satisfying. Also, I think partly it's to do with like the animations. The animations on Sub feel really nice. Like the Shadow Strike animation is like so cool because you're like running your entire body through, like you're running like your whole body through that enemy, right? Like it just feels really good. Like I feel much more like a rogue when I play Sub, and that's like a really nice feeling. So here, Rupture's going up because it's 2 targets. This is where it's kind of awkward. I've got a Shadow Dance I'm sitting on. Also in this wing, I kind of sit on my Shadow Blades. I don't know because I didn't know if I'd have time to pop them and pop them again by the time we got to the end of this corridor. So I probably could have Shadow Blades on this first pack and had it back up for the boss, especially if you're running the Stellato Staccato, I think it's called, the Conduit, which reduces the cooldown on Shadow Blades every single time that you get a Shadowy Techniques proc. I would definitely have, like, then you definitely just want a Shadow Blaze pretty much on cooldown, right? But here I'm kind of sitting on my Shadow Dances, my symbols. I think I was sitting on symbols for Ruptures there, because you don't want to be using your Ruptures. If you can, you want to be trying to make sure you have your Ruptures and your Slice and Dices up before you symbols. Like, it's kind of a toss-up, right? It's a judgment call. You want to be getting your symbols on cooldown as soon as you can, but you also want to be using your hard-hitting finishers inside of your symbols because you're getting 10% increased damage, and you're getting like a, you know, like a bunch of crit and stuff if you're running the Conduit for it. So you want to be getting your hard-hitting finishers into that symbols window, right? Instead of just like, you know, popping it and then rupturing things. So here I'm still keeping an eye on these. We got a lot of CC for them, but I can see that this one on the right is potentially getting quite high, so I'd chuck a kidney on that one. Remember that you can still use your kidney shots. This is why I think that Sub has also got a little bit over assassination, because you do pretty much always have a combo point ready after you use a finisher, the same as Outlaw. Assassination seems to be like the only spec which doesn't really have that luxury. And now we're going back up to 5 mobs, so it's back to Shuriken Storm Black Powder spam, as you can see here. I just see I put my symbols, and now I've got a tornado coming up, so I'm just gonna put my tornado, black powder, black powder, black powder, black powder. Really satisfying to use that little combo, right? And I don't think that I've died in this run. I think almost everyone else has died except for me, which is really nice. And I don't think I've even used any of my defensives defensively. You know, like I've just been using them to get uptime and to stay on cooldown. One thing that I've also noticed from watching this one back is that, like, for me being Kyrian, I do tend to use my Anima Charge combo point on, like, Eviscerate always, when it actually works on any, like, damaging finisher, right? So you can get a big black powder from it, you can get a big rupture from it and stuff like that. I would say it's not really worth with rupture, but, you know, if you need the increased uptime, it essentially is like a 7-point rupture. 7-point black powder would be great too, but I seem to always use it on eviscerate, even if I'm on like an AoE situation. I think like my brain has defaulted into use, like I see that you know, oh, I'm on the combo point, press eviscerate, because I'm so used to like doing it on single target when I used to play a lot of subtlety towards the start of Shadowlands. So yeah, trying to break that habit, that's like a mistake by me, because I do like to point out both like what I did well and what I did wrong, so that, you know, maybe that's a bit more educational for you guys who are watching. Shout out, by the way, if you're still watching the video, because we're like 30 minutes in right now. So shout out if you are still watching the video. I know, comment down below your favorite pizza topping if you're listening right now. But yeah, that's kind of like a habit that I need to break. Again, big damage coming out here. I just love the opener with subtlety. It is so fun to play. I was actually like really trying to decide between like going full into Venthyr and just going like Venthyr sub on everything, like keys, raids, everything, right? But I decided to go Kyrian just for now because I think it's a little bit better. Like, I really don't like Venthyr Outlaw. I really don't like Flagellation as an ability, but I think with the Venthyr Legendary, it could be quite good. Like, especially I know it's great with sub. So I probably will try that out at some point as well. It's just that I wanted to try Outlaw with Kyrian as well, so I kind of went with Kyrian just because it can do both. Like, it's a bit more of a middle ground covenant for like both possible specs, right? But yeah, I would say if you want to go full into sub, if you're absolutely sold on sub, probably play Venthyr. Necrolord just feels really clunky with subtlety in my opinion, but it feels really nice with like assassination and things, and it feels quite nice with outlaw. So I think you can play any three of those covenants. I'd say that like the breakdown would probably be, if you want to play assassination and outlaw, or if you want to play all three, play Necrolord. If you want to play Venthyr and assassination, if you want to play subtlety and assassination, I'd go Venthyr. If you want to play outlaw and subtlety, I would play Kyrian. So I want to go outlaw subtlety right now, but it might change down the line, you know. And it's not like assassination is like absolutely terrible with Kyrian, but I think you're definitely lacking a bit, you know. So yeah, that was cool. Like 8.9 KDPS again on that boss. Really nice. We're doing quite good. And here my plan is, I'm kind of like strategizing my plan for the last boss now as we run there. As you can see, we've like just missed the 2 chest timer, which kind of sucks. And now we've decided that like we've missed the tormentor, so we're gonna go kill this frost dude. And then we also missed an enraged spirit that's walking around down on the right side, so we've gone and killed that so it can't disrupt us during the boss as well. So that was kind of like a mess up in the route. I think the route could have definitely been planned better, because like we skipped a spirit, we skipped a tormentor, and we overcapped on trash. So if we'd taken a little bit of time, it just shows that like routing is quite important, and that is kind of annoying as like a barrier to entry for a tank. Like for me personally, I do like dungeon tanking, but I haven't done it in a while, and I'm actually gearing up, and I've been leveling up and gearing up my Demon Hunter to learn how to tank. So I was thinking about making like a side series on this channel about like my kind of journey as like learning how to tank, and kind of like doing a little highlight reel / you know, like just documenting my improvements as a tank player. Because I do encourage people to try it, because there are really not a lot of tanks in this game. If you try pugging like I do, it is an absolute nightmare to find. Not only find good tanks, but also just finding tanks at all in the first place. Sometimes you can sit like half an hour waiting for a tank, and then they turn out to be bad anyway. But like I'd rather do content with a bad tank than just sit around waiting for a tank to sign up, you know. Like, I'd rather be playing the game than sitting around waiting to play the game, because like who knows, it could always go good or bad. I'd rather increase my uptime in keys. So I would encourage people to like take that step into tanking, even just to try it out on an ult or something like that. But yeah, it's definitely like there are a lot of barrier to entries with tanking. And now that what was the last season's affix called? Now that Prideful's gone, I would say that like the barrier to entry is a little bit lower, because there's less like demand. There's less demand on like having like a really like, you know, being really good with your roots and pulling all the correct mobs in the correct order. Like it's a bit more open and freehand, you know, for like getting into tanking, which is really good. So yeah, that's tanking. And that's kind of like an idea I have. Here I've used 1 symbols on Tall, and I've saved my Shadow Blades, but I'm not saving it for the intermission phase because I don't think I'll need it. This is not a tyrannical key, and it's not high enough, I think, to need it. So I think I can do it with just 1 symbols. So I'm actually saving my Shadow Blades for when we come back with the Bloodlust after the intermission phase, right? So I do sit on this second symbol so that I have it up. I probably could have used it on cooldown and I would get it up halfway through this phase, right? So you probably could use the second symbols and then you'll get it like on this, but just make sure that you have some Shadow Dances and the symbols at some point during this phase. And if it's a really high key on Tyrannical, you might even need to Shadow Blaze this mob so that you can solo it. But here I pretty much overkilled it really hard. I probably could have saved this Shadow Dance I used right here as well. Like I probably could have done it with 1 symbols, 1 Shadow Dance, and then save this Shadow Dance for when we come back with the thing, because I still had 17 seconds left when I killed that. And like I've almost got my symbols ready again, right? Like I would have actually got two symbols in that intermission phase. Like its symbols are up in 3, and the phase ends in, like, you know, it was ending in 7. So I think that on a really, really high key, you'd save Shadow Blaze and pop everything on that thing. But here I can save Shadow Blaze for like this haste phase, right? And I've got everything ready to go, and now we just pop the boss. Now you'll see us rise even further. Like we're already quite far ahead of the other DPS, but you'll see us rise even further. And that is what I absolutely love about sub, the fact that you do incredible boss damage, but also you can keep up on trash. I just feel like Outlaw, you know, you kind of have to, you kind of like opt for just like doing pretty averagely okay damage all the time, but you can do decent boss damage. I've definitely done decent boss damage as Outlaw, and there's still something that I need to like get used to myself learning, which is running with Ghostly Strike, right? Like I think that's quite a good pick now. I stay in here as the cloak for DPS again, like uptime, but I wouldn't have done that if the boss wasn't dying soon. And there we go. That's the DOS run. We obviously missed the +2 on it, which kind of sucked, but as I said, that was down to routing mostly, I think. But the damage is really, really good. Very hard to keep up with the Windwalker monk, as I'm sure some of you have played against Windwalkers, and they just do absolutely incredible AoE. That it buffs them up so high. Like I think I topped the bot, like every single boss by quite a considerable amount, right? And like on AoE trash I kept up, but I just can't keep up with the Windwalker. They just do insane damage. But I did beat this Fury Warrior, who was like 2550 score or something, so he must know how to press buttons. But yeah, that's about it. That's the DOS key. It was a fun key, definitely one that I'd recommend trying out Subtlety for if you haven't already. Hopefully I provided some kind of educational value in this video. If not, maybe you just like hearing me talking. So again, shout out if you stay for the video. I got a lot more videos in the works coming out, but I will instead of just telling you what's coming, I'll just make it so that you can just see what's coming, right? So I will catch you guys in the next one. Expect more of these commentary style videos. I'm already working on a few, and yeah, I'll probably put one or two out per week from now on for the season 2 pass, along with a lot of other rogue and non-rogue things, like general WoW resources. And there's more like a channel update video coming quite soon as well. So make sure to like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Feel free to head over to the Twitch channel as well if you'd like to catch me live. I stream there 5 days a week, so I'd love to see some of you over there. That is twitch.tv/JustRuss. I will put that down in the comment section below and on screen for you now. And yeah, until next time, guys, have a great day, and I guess this is it. Peace.